arrival was almost unspeakable.
We are all evil in some form or another. I'm not guilty.
The dead won't bother you. It's the living you gotta worry about.
If I couldn't keep them there with me whole, at least I felt that I could keep their skeletons.
G'day, mate, and welcome to the Bad Taste Crime Podcast. I'm Vicky.
Oh, I'm Rachel. Come and throw a shrimp on the barbie. This is our Down Under podcast. It's the worst Australian accent anyone's ever done.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Oh, no, Cleo.
Okay, well... All will be revealed.
Crikey.
I love that you don't know why I went Australian, and you're just like, all right, let's do it.
I'm down to clown. I'm here.
Where's your Fago?
Here for it.
Dude, I saw this video the other day where he was like, yeah, my buddy, his last wish was to have his ashes put in a bottle of Fago and chucked at an ICP concert. Did you see that one?
Yeah.
I have one friend who I know for sure was like a former juggalo.
No.
And I send her every single ICP meme that comes up on TikTok.
Yes.
Every single one. Yeah.
Not the Fago.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, if this is your first time listening, a special hello to you.
Hi.
We've got a great show for you today.
Super great.
But first, let's head over to the newsroom.
Unfit to breathe, our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad.
This week, our news comes from Vietnam. Mm-hmm. Comes from Vietnam. Now, this is something that came up a couple weeks ago. This is kind of old news, but
okay.
I just found this really interesting. So I don't know if you heard about the chairwoman of property developer Van Tin Phat, a woman named Trong My Lan. Mm-hmm. She was found guilty of some extreme fraud. Did you hear about this?
I'm trying to think if I have. It sounds familiar, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. So basically, it's a huge embezzling scam.
In Vietnam.
Yeah. The three crimes were bribery, violating banking regulations, and embezzlement.
Oh.
To the tune of the equivalent of $27 billion,
Whoa.
which was like out of a major bank, Saigon Commercial Bank.
God.
Which was like this huge blow to the economy. It's kind of wild.
What do you need billions of dollars for, you dick?
She essentially was like putting money into shell companies and then using that money to cover other expenses.
And laundering. I see.
Yeah. It's a whole thing.
Swiss offshore bank accounts.
The reason why this is so interesting to me is because on April 11th, she was found guilty and sentenced to death.
I did hear about this.
Yes. We all know how I feel about white collar crime, which embezzlement and bribery and shit. That's all.
This is like right up your alley.
The death sentence is the thing that I find really interesting. And she has, I will also say she has appealed.
Right.
She's, as far as I'm aware, she's currently awaiting a decision on the appeal. But
I did see this.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting.
Me too.
I know that countries in the East typically have harsher sentences.
I have noticed that.
For just generally for things. And some are kind of like picky on what things they're having harsh sentences on, right? I do think this sort of comes off of the back of it being such a huge blow to the economy of the country as a whole.
Right. Like it didn't just affect this one business. It affected like people's day-to-day life. I mean, billions of dollars.
Yeah.
And in such like a small country, that had to have been catastrophic.
Yeah. It is huge. And she has been ordered to pay 673.8 trillion Vietnamese dollars, which is somewhere in the billions.
Jeez.
Yeah. So
that's some cheddar.
Yeah, I just find it really interesting that the death sentence is the thing.
It's very like French Revolution. Like, if you're a billionaire, we're just going to kill you.
Yeah, which part I am all for, especially in the U.S., I'm all for harsher punishments on these white-collar crimes.
Absolutely.
So you feel like people get off pretty easily.
Way too easily.
It has gotten slightly better, I think, because
Yeah.
we're more willing to hold people accountable.
Right.
Somewhat.
Mostly.
Somewhat.
Sometimes. But I don't
But I'm not
necessarily
like
support this ruling.
Yeah.
But
This will be an interesting one to kind of keep an
Yeah.
eye on because I want to know what happens with the appeal.
me too.
And she was found guilty along with, I think they said, there's 50 other defendants that filed appeals.
I'm sure like
I
she's
think it
got
was
like accountants and shit.
81 total.
Okay.
81 defendants received
that's
prison
a lot of money.
sentences ranging from 3 years to 20 years, and
Okay.
she got life, or she got death.
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 Yeah. Jeez.
So
That's a lot. Yeah, I remember that coming out because everyone was like, haha, eat the rich. And I'm like,
this is
I get
problematic.
that,
This is
but
a little
let's calm
problematic. Yeah, it is. It's a very extreme sentence. I don't know. I'm interested to see what happens with it.
Me too. That's
This is
one
more
I'm
of just like a
definitely
heads up
following.
on things
Yeah.
that are going on. You know.
Yes. Put
So-
a pin in it.
We're going to move along to Netflix and Kill. This week is an HBO and Kill. We're talking about the Synanon fix.
Yes.
And this one I wanted to talk about because we actually covered Synanon on the podcast. Episode 142.
Throwback.
Janelle and I did an episode about cults, and it was called Exit, Exit, Exit. I don't remember what she covered, but it was about cults, and we covered Synanon. So when this came out, I was definitely like ready.
Yeah.
And it is cool because it has a lot of like original footage from the time during Synanon. So for people who aren't aware, Synanon was this organization that was started as a place for addicts and junkies and alcoholics to come rehabilitate, get sober, and sort of do a new sort of therapy that would help them stay sober.
Yeah. Which sounds very positive.
Yeah.
first.
Yeah. It sounds really positive.
Yeah.
Most of the time when they came in, it was quitting drugs cold turkey. And it was started by this guy.
Which is unsafe,
Yeah.
by the way.
Yeah. It was started by this guy named Chuck Diedrich in Santa Monica, California. And so he basically pumped money into it. Got this. They were like renting like an apartment type space for a while, and they moved into a building. More people started coming. Diedrich himself was an alcoholic who had recovered and had quit cold turkey and kind of done. So he just applied the same practices to everybody. Then it sort of became this 2-year residential program that people would go to, and then it sort of evolved from that into this very like, I don't even know. Synanon was they owned businesses. They were out doing community work. They
were so public, which is so fascinating.
Yeah, and it definitely became one of these things that like the rich and famous went to because you could go to. There was a term for people who were like not in the community. They were like tourists, you know.
Okay.
They would just come for.
But of course, they would kindly offer their services to these very wealthy outsiders.
Right. And there was
out of the goodness of their hearts.
They would just come for the game, which the game is these sessions that they would have where people would talk about themselves, talk about the things that they're feeling, but like it also invited criticism. You were allowed to harshly criticize people, but the only thing that you weren't allowed to do was violence.
Yeah.
In any way, shape, or form in the beginning. So it would just be like these sessions of people yelling at each other. It's kind of, to watch it is wild. And that's why I kind of love that they have all of this, because they, like you said, they were very prolific. So like they were in the media, they were being interviewed.
So there's all of this like big video trail.
Tons of footage from the games and all of this stuff.
That's
and
always a huge plus for me.
This is like the 60s, 70s time period too.
Yep.
So like, it's all very groovy.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like
is there a smoky haze over the
the whole time. The whole fucking time. So then it evolved into this sort of very culty. They were like raising the children communally.
Yeah.
They were training a militia.
You know,
they were
hey,
Yeah.
everyone's got to have a hobby.
things roll. They try to assassinate an attorney with a cobra in his mailbox.
Everyone needs a hobby.
Yeah, the leader, Charles Dietrich, gets arrested. Turns out he's gone back to drinking and is a severe alcoholic again. It's a wild story.
Yeah.
The documentary is great.
It's super worth watching.
Super great. Like I said, the original footage helps a lot, but they have a lot of former like people who grew up in Synanon or whose parents were in Synanon. Charles Dietrich's daughter, who eventually, like as she got older, was on the board of Synanon before everything kind of fizzled. Like she's in it. So they have a lot of like people who were in it doing original interviews and talking about the experience. And it was just very well put together.
Yeah.
It's very well put together. Really enjoyed it. You should check it out. It's on Max. It's good. It's a good time. This is that part of the show where we say content may not be appropriate for all listeners. We're talking about some real heavy stuff and some real gross stuff.
Yeah.
Really, really, if you have a weak stomach or you're just like not there mentally, this is not the one for you.
Yeah, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's totally cool. Do you want to tell us what we're talking about today, Rachel?
Yeah, so this was my topic, and I feel like I'm typically like the one with the weaker stomach, so why I picked this topic, I don't know.
I know whatever happens from here on out is like your own doing.
For real, it is.
You
literally
asked
my
for this
fault.
punishment.
I did. After this, I'm gonna be like, bleh. We are talking about the delightful topic of cannibalism today.
Truthfully, one of my favorites. I think every time we've done a cannibalism episode, it's always been my pick. So
Yeah,
you're in good company.
Oh, cool.
You're in
That's
good company.
good. One brain cell.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
Yeah, so I picked cannibalism. I thought it would be an interesting topic, and I feel like I'm really jumping into it with both feet because I've guest starred here on this lovely podcast a couple of times, and I feel like each time, whenever we do our little very important like trigger warning section, I haven't really had too much. It's like, okay, there's a little mention of this, a little mention of this. I'm like, this is gruesome and grim.
Yeah. Like so gruesome, I didn't really feel like I could go into all the details
Me too.
in the trigger warning.
But there's also like, I can't omit everything. Like I want like, okay, so if you're like my mom listening, just turn it off. I'll see you next time.
Yeah.
You don't want to listen to this.
Yeah.
But it really is interesting. So if you're able to, stick around.
Get it.
So this is a case that do you remember Court TV?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Which
like,
is another thing that I wish was like, I was more into or more aware of or old enough to understand while it was a thing.
see, I only really
would've loved
watched
it.
like Forensic Files.
Yeah.
And I think this
But they did a lot
case-
of like
They
airing
did.
of trials.
I know. And now
yeah.
it's not like that anymore. It's like True TV or whatever. It's different.
True TV isn't even around anymore.
Is it not? It's
I think
gone
it
now?
might still be as like a streaming thing, but I don't really see it.
Oh,
Yeah.
bummer.
Yeah.
But this is one of those cases where when I was little and like too little to like be at all interested in this is one of those things where I like accidentally watched it on TV and like traumatized myself.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
It's been
this is
sitting in your memory
horrible.
this whole time.
Yeah. And then I saw an episode of something when I was older and more into it and was like, oh yeah. But it always kind of like haunted me. And I think about this woman a lot. So this is Omaima Nelson. Are you familiar?
I am not. I am not.
I feel like you might be as I talk about it. It was like a pretty big 90s case.
I was not like cognizant of true crime in the 90s.
Well, I know,
really
but
wasn't.
you might be like now as like an
I mean,
afterthought,
maybe.
you know, because
Maybe.
this was all, I think
Is
we
this
were like
in is it in Japan?
No.
Where is it?
America.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
So we don't start in America though. We start
In Japan?
No.
God damn it.
In Africa.
Okay. Wow.
So she was born in a poor village near Sudan in 1968. Unfortunately, not much is known about her early life, but what is known is just a series of massive bummers. This is
great.
This is a bummer episode, you guys.
Lovely.
Because we're not just going into cannibalism, because unfortunately, with her father, Omaima was heavily abused, both in every way that you can imagine, physically, sexually. And she also underwent very controversial, that's the word I was thinking of, excuse me. She also underwent the very controversial practice of female genital mutilation.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I tried looking into the family. There's really not a lot known because sometimes I know I know that it can be somewhat of a religious-ish practice, but it doesn't,
Right.
which I'm not defending. I'm just saying I know it's a complicated thing, but there wasn't really any reason for it. And this would cause her to obviously have a lot of trauma. She was later diagnosed with complex PTSD, and it made intercourse very painful for her throughout her life, which is very, very
I cannot
unfortunate.
even imagine.
Me neither. It just sends a chill up my spine. I hate that so much.
Yeah.
Just unforgivable. She was not alone. Her mother was also abused by her father. Eventually they fled, but their situation didn't much improve. They had to live in an awful slum that was kind of built into a graveyard. It was nicknamed the City of the Dead. So that's like where she spent her childhood.
Yeah.
There were like open graves.
This is all in Africa.
Yeah,
Okay.
near Sudan. Some places said, this is another case where there was a lot of very conflicting misinformation.
Yeah.
It was hard to kind of nail it down. And she's a very elusive subject, so I think that has something to do with it. That she might have just like said whatever.
Sure.
But yeah, all in just like very undeveloped areas. There was a lot of violence. She only knew poverty her whole life.
Okay.
But luckily for Omaima, as she grew up, she grew into a great beauty. There's a lot of pictures of her online. This was a very publicized case.
Okay.
She is beautiful, gorgeous.
Yeah.
And she knew from a young age sort of how to use that to her advantage. Now, a lot of, I'm warning you guys in advance if you start looking this up, a lot of the 90s era publications around Omaima who did commit this awful crime are real kind of slut-shamey.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them talk about teenage Omaima manipulating these like old men. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah. And that's definitely of the time. Like
Right.
that was an era where the sensationalized headlines,
completely.
especially when a woman was
With
involved,
it's just getting
were
worse from here.
always like
Yup.
very tabloidy.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's always like, oh, this like dangerous,
Yes.
seductive woman. Right. And it's like she is this poor girl living in a fucking graveyard. Like, if some man's going to be like, can I buy you something? She's going to be like, sure. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, we got to calm down.
Right. Right.
So, but regardless, that is kind of how she made her living. And again, it's all very delicate. So I'm not sure if she was more of sort of a sugar baby or if she was a sex worker, like professionally. It's all a little murky, but it's said that she relied on men a lot for money through her beauty. And at 18, she met an American man who was there because he worked in the oil industry in Egypt. They got together, quickly married, and flew to America. I think he was, again, like 10 years older than her.
Yeah. I mean, oil industry definitely means like money.
Right.
Like cha-ching.
Right. I was like, that's a good place to go man searching.
For sure.
So I was kind of like, okay, go girl.
Yeah.
So that marriage didn't last very long at all. I actually could never find if it was annulled, if they got divorced. It just kind of
Did they actually get legally married?
See, I don't
or
know.
did they just like call each other husband and wife and just never have gotten legally married?
That's something that comes into play later with another relationship.
Oh, Jesus,
as well.
okay.
This lady just did not know how to do paperwork, so I'm just not sure.
It's like, well, I never actually said yes. So
Right.
like,
I don't know if maybe they were just like kind of engaged.
But also,
marry you.
there's part of me that's like, if you were actually trying to get it, like if the motive was the money and the money is the motive, you would get married because
I am so
then you
glad
have a
you
legal
said that.
claim to.
Because that's something that's going to come up later, too. You literally just set it up so perfectly. I'm
good.
obsessed with you. She's a professional, ladies and
Like
gentlemen.
I've done this before.
You have. So their marriage didn't last long. She didn't have great English. She was kind of struggling. She was taking small jobs to get by. She did work as a model from time to time. She was mainly a fashion model, which means she would work runways. She really is beautiful, gorgeous. She's like Egyptian. Her cheekbones are nuts.
Really?
Nuts. So I'm like, get that money, girl.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. But didn't really pay the bills. And often when she would like nanny for people, she would kind of steal things from their house. She was just trying to
She's just trying to make it in
claw
this
her
world,
way
honey.
by.
Yeah.
Right. And this whole time, as she's getting more beautiful, gorgeous, and getting modeling jobs, more men would come along and she would kind of do what she did, whether she manipulated them or they were victimizing her. Either way, these little things did not end up well. One man did buy her a car.
Okay.
Another one, she got the guy to bring her home, and then she held him up with a gun and stole all of his money.
Okay.
And then she fled to California, where she met former pilot Bill Nelson in 1991. So she's fleeing the state.
Yeah.
Because she's just stolen this rich
I wonder
guy's
if,
money.
was she in the U.S. legally? Well, I guess if she got married.
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah.
It was really difficult to find a lot of information.
Okay.
Like for how overblown this case was, I was a little frustrated with like finding like the facts.
Sure.
Like I was like, please 90s.
Yeah. I get
so I'm not sure. She's just running all over the place. But meets this former pilot, Bill Nelson. So Bill was a little bit of an eccentric. He was a famous show-off. He wore bright red cowboy boots and drove a bright red, very expensive Corvette.
Okay.
So you can kind of picture what a kind of a guy he was. He was like a middle-aged guy.
I just had an image of Lil Nas in my head.
See, that's way more fabulous. No offense to Bill's kind of like
Lil Nas is fabulous as shit, but you said the red cowboy boots, and I was like,
see, that's fashionable and fierce.
Yeah.
Bill's this is a little bit of a peacock.
okay, I see.
Mr. Everybody look at me, and that was very much his personality.
Yeah.
And he just kind of did what he wanted to do. He had a lot of money, obviously Corvette, because he used to be a pilot. But in 1984, he was convicted of smuggling marijuana.
Oh, God. Okay.
Yeah, so he served a 4-year prison sentence in federal prison, was released on parole, and got a job at a mortgage company.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. So just like, and again, what is this? Is it white collar crime? Just a little bit. He was able to kind of maintain his lifestyle.
Sure.
I mean, mortgage company, he was making pretty good money. He had a lot of property, and he had, after he was released from prison, that's kind of what he did. They had this in common where they both kind of fled to California.
Yeah.
They were both running from their old lives. So in the bar, he's flashing his cash. He's bragging about being rich. He's trying to bet people to play pool with him. They met over the pool table. And after knowing each other for less than 3 weeks, they knew each other for the equivalent of 1 week because like that's how much time they spent together in the 3 weeks.
Okay.
They were wed.
Oh, God.
Bill was 56. Omaima was 23, which is a 33-year age difference.
That's how old I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my whole life.
Yeah. That's like, oh my God. Blech.
Yeah. It's a pretty big difference.
It's a pretty big difference. They also...
So we were just talking about age differences earlier today.
We were, and that's a big one.
That's a big one.
And again, they said that she had trouble speaking English. I'm like, what do you two have in common?
She's how old? 23. Ooh,
Yeah. So she had come to the U.S. at 18. So she'd had a little while, and there's interviews of her. You know, she does speak English, but it's kind of like it's hard not to see their relationship for being 100% shallow.
Right.
Because it's like, this is this young, beautiful Egyptian girl, and you're this like old, pudgy white guy with a red Corvette.
Sure. And
Girl.
boots.
And red cowboy boots. So we were talking about marriage ceremonies earlier. They got married by telephone ceremony, which I was
Sick.
like, is that a real thing?
Can I do
Turns
that?
out, no.
Oh.
So it kind of seems like he kind of told her, yeah, we're getting married.
Oh.
But then it wasn't legal because Bill was already married. His
Oh my God.
divorce from his former wife was not finalized.
Yo.
So the phone marriage was totally full of beans. They went on a super awkward honeymoon to Texas and Arkansas to meet Bill's family. He literally
The idea of meeting your
literally,
family
and,
on the honeymoon.
So, like, I'm thinking, beautiful young girl, rich old guy. I'm like, oh, they're going to take a honeymoon to, like, Tahiti.
Right.
Or,
no.
like, somewhere beautiful. And, like, she's going to wear a lot of string bikinis.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Yeah.
it's just, like, but I'm like, you're taking her home to meet the folks? And unfortunately, Bill literally had children older than her. So everyone in his family was like, ew.
It's like an episode of 90 Day Fiance, I gotta say.
Literally.
I know you're early on in your 90 day,
but it's giving
girl,
me,
it gets fucking weird.
I'm so excited. I'm on season
Gets
1, everyone.
weird.
I'm literally so excited.
I can't wait for you to catch up. I need somebody to talk about it with.
I'm trying. So his family was just like, ew.
Yeah.
And like, I can't imagine how awkward
That
that
really
would be together. Because you think, what do they have in common? Like partying? You're going to go to like,
they both
your mom's
breathe.
house. That's fair.
They both are breathing.
For now.
Allegedly.
For now, girl.
Foreshadowing.
So the family just kind of was like, okay, no. And they reported that they seemed happy together, that they were both very quiet, which is interesting. But they definitely did not approve of her. Now, Omaima was staying with him in this apartment that he had, this lavish apartment. He owned a lot of property, so I'm not sure why they were staying there. But on the 1st of December, which was right after Thanksgiving weekend, there was another man who lived in the apartments. His name was Jose, who was their neighbor. It was really, really early in the morning. I think Jose had probably had a long Thanksgiving weekend, maybe a little red wine with the turkey. So when he heard knocking in early morning, he was like, who is at my house? Looked outside and he saw the red Corvette. He was like, now, I don't know anybody with a red Corvette. Good night. And he went back to sleep.
Yeah.
When he woke up a few hours later, the red Corvette was still there. And he looked outside and saw Omaima in it. Now, it turns out that back in the day, Jose and Omaima used to hook up a little bit.
Oh,
it's
boy.
implied this was before the marriage, but I mean, I don't really know. I don't know. That's
there's
neither confirmed nor
also,
denied.
I'm very much like, once a cheater, always a cheater.
I completely agree with you.
Like,
I don't think that ever goes away.
yeah.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was like, none of my business. But then he was like, oh, that's my past girlfriend. Okay, what's up, girl? So he's like, what's wrong? He goes in the car, sits down with her. What's wrong? Talk to me. Let's talk in this red Corvette. She's crying and she's holding this black plastic bag. She's like, something horrible has happened. My husband, Bill, he attacked me. He tried to force himself on me. She says, I had no choice but to kill him in self-defense. So what I need you to do right now is help me. And she hands him this garbage bag, which he's like, hello. And when he opens it, inside the garbage bag is tissue and organs and
oh my God.
human interior. Yeah. It's not just like, if someone handed you a bag full of body parts, I feel like it would be traumatic. But I'm like, if it's like a hand, I think that's different than like a bag of organs. But that's what she was handing to him. You know, that's really gross. I'm like, why'd you pick the grossest bag? Like, you're weird.
Head trumps all, though. I feel like if somebody hands you a bag with a head in it, it's like, that is like the worst it could be. Because that's the actual face. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Yo.
I agree.
That's a wild, though.
Super
just
wild.
to walk to your
I'm like,
friend,
that's a bad
your
intro.
acquaintance,
Omaima.
your fuck buddy that's
Yeah.
like, here, have a bag of organs.
Yeah, here you go, Belle. And she's like, are you in the market for 2 motorcycles and $75,000? Just help me, just throw that bag away and I'll give that to you. And he was like, that is such a good plan. I'm going to be literally right back. Literally stay here. Take the bag of organs. I do not want it. Be right back. And he went back to his apartment and called the fucking police.
Oh, good for him.
We love Jose.
Yeah.
Jose is our BAMF of the week.
Absolutely.
We love him so much. So I guess he didn't want a motorcycle.
Okay.
Is what
well,
I'm guessing.
not like that. At what cost?
I don't even have my license. Like, what are you talking about? So when the police came, she was still in the car. They found the bag of organs and they went to her apartment.
Okay.
So this is the apartment. This is really, really gross. So inside this house of horrors, apartment of horrors, they found suitcases strewn about. When they looked inside the suitcases, they found more black plastic bags, and all of these bags were filled with various human remains.
Okay.
On the floor, they found a broken lamp, like one of those big 90s heavy lamps, and an iron, like a clothes iron, a broken one on the floor covered in blood. They went into the bedroom. The mattress was saturated with blood. The apartment was in a complete wreck. So they're trying to figure out what happened. They went into the bathroom, and hanging in the shower, Mom, if you're still listening, literally turn the episode off. In the shower, they found his torso hung up with clothing hangers.
Oh my God.
Completely skinned and gutted and bleeding into the tub. Literally so gross. Then in the kitchen.
That's wild.
I know. Oh, just wait. In the kitchen, they had a deep fat fryer. When they looked inside, they found 2 human hands
In the
floating
fryer?
in the deep fat fryer.
What?
Full of oil. So like still in the oil, completely fried. So I just said it was after Thanksgiving weekend, right?
Yeah.
So they're looking like all in because this was in the kitchen. So like, let's look around. In the turkey meat was mixed in flesh.
Oh my God.
So she had maybe planned to serve him. So it was mixed with turkey meat and cranberry sauce. Can't forget the cranberry sauce.
Oh my God.
I wonder if she goes for like the can kind or like the homemade
Fresh,
kind.
yeah.
You know, it's the little details that count when you're serving your husband. Then they opened the freezer and they found wrapped in tinfoil Bill's head.
Oh God.
Which had also been deep fat fried.
Yo.
Apparently, she said later that the reason that she froze the head was so that she could break out the teeth to avoid identification.
Huh.
Which is really interesting because that's what I wondered. And I was like, how do you know that? Girly pop. Because I didn't know that, and I'm a weirdo.
There's a lot of things that if you put it in the freezer, like the act of freezing will pop, like candle wax, for instance. If you put candles in the freezer, they kind of just like pop out really cleanly, right? But like, that's like, yeah, I don't know.
Like I
weird.
heard this is like super out there. I had a coworker once who had been to prison and was like, kind of wild, and would talk about how they hung out with like gang members and stuff. Again, can I confirm nor deny? No.
Yeah.
These stories were also unsolicited. I was like, hello.
Sure.
Workplace stories. And they said that the gang members would take the teeth out of the skulls of people that they killed and just sledgehammer them, grind them into powder before they got rid of the bodies.
Yeah.
So I was like,
yeah.
That
we should not be giving people ideas.
No. Hey, we can cut that out.
None of this counts.
But
don't endorse.
So it's like all of this like criminal like knowledge. I'm like, where do you?
Right. Yeah. I don't know
that?
where you.
I would never think to
never
like, put a head in the freezer.
No.
Well, I wouldn't think to do any of this.
No.
You know,
I wouldn't either. No.
Like no thanks. So obviously they took her in. Of course. And they were like, what are you going to say, girl?
Yeah.
Like, what's your plan? And she was like, oh my God, I can literally explain. She's like, my husband, Bill, killed somebody and now he's on a trip. So in the apartment, that's just the guy that he killed. He did all that. And they're like, okay, but we found his head and it's literally him. And she was like, okay. In that case, she's like, I am possessed by an ancient Egyptian demon who told me to kill my husband and dismember him because according to her, but according to this Egyptian demon, if you dismember the body, they cannot travel to the afterlife. Which, okay, I'm just going to put it out there. I'm not Egyptian, but in school, they taught us about ancient Egyptian burials and like they took all their organs and like put them in little jars. Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Why would an Egyptian demon tell you that? Fact check, girl. I don't think that they would. I don't think there was a demon at all.
What? Demon?
I know. She also, during the whole interview, she was all over the place. I honestly don't know this is like kind of like an iffy. I don't know if they necessarily should have interviewed her at that time. I don't know if she was necessarily in the best state of mind to answer questions. Not defending her, just pointing it out. And in parts of it, she acts like Bill is still alive. Like she's surprised. She's like, what are you talking about? So it's really weird to watch. So the reason that she was so concerned with him reaching the afterlife, and the whole reason that she says she did this, is she said that pretty much as soon as they were married, he had begun to horrifically abuse her.
Okay.
In all of these horrible ways. So she said from the beginning, like, this is self-defense. This is self-defense. One of the things that they do, of course, when they arrest you, if you're involved in a violent crime, is they check your body. So they did check her body. The only wounds they found, and they checked for healing bruises because they'd been married for, like a few weeks or whatever.
Right.
And the only wounds they found on her were self-inflicted.
Okay.
During the fight, they don't know why, she had clawed her face with her long nails and she had cut herself with a knife all over her body. I wonder if maybe she was trying to make it look like she was attacked, or make it look like there was a struggle when there really wasn't, or whether she was just in a state of psychosis, or whether it happened. I mean, dismembering a body is not like, easy or fun or something you should do.
There's part of me that wonders too if it was like, because you said this is like before she dismembered the body and whatever else she gave herself all these injuries, right?
They don't know.
Oh.
It was like during.
It was okay. So there's part of me that wonders if maybe they got into like a fight and she was like, you better stay or I'm going to hurt myself.
So,
because that's
a little
the
more
scratching of the face seems very dramatic.
Yeah,
like it seems very like
something you would do to freak somebody out.
Right.
Completely.
Right.
It's like a hysterical gesture.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
And she had really
and I could
I
could just from her state of mind, it seems like she could go there.
Oh, definitely. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
And I wonder if something like that had happened.
Yeah.
But this is going to become clear through the rest of the podcast. There is no evidence at all that Bill had ever abused anyone.
Okay.
No evidence at all.
Yeah.
Lots of talking to family members.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff. Nope.
Yeah.
Nothing. So I will say that.
Yeah.
So this is what really happened.
Oh boy. Okay.
According to her and according to whatever. So Omaima was like, what a fun, sexy little time I have planned for you. I'm going to tie you up, mister. And then she's like, hey, guess what? Somebody told me that phone marriages are not real. Are we not really fucking married? Because I want your money.
Oh, yeah.
So she's like, are we married or not? And he's like, no. So then she castrated him.
Okay.
With scissors while he was still alive. While he was tied to this bed.
Okay.
She smashed him over the head with the lamp, stabbed him all over with the scissors, and then proceeded to completely dismember his body. She also hit him in the head with the clothing iron until it shattered.
Yeah.
So that's why it was broken. So and that was his eventual cause of death, which I'm amazed they were able to determine it.
Right.
Which was blunt force trauma to the head.
Yeah.
Although, as they're collecting him up, about 100 pounds, between 100 and 130 pounds of his body was never found. Neighbors said they heard the garbage disposal running for hours.
Oh my God.
In that morning. But 130 pounds, where did the rest of it go? That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot of person to be missing.
Yeah, it is.
The medical examiner also said, as they were collecting the body, that, and this is very interesting and it's never really examined, he said it was so precise that without having the details, he was like, this person has done this many, many times before. He thought this was a career criminal.
Oh my gosh.
Because again, super gross, sorry, but she skinned parts of him.
Yeah.
She disemboweled. This is not something that you just do,
Yeah.
I think.
Is that something she would have picked up in childhood?
That's what I wonder, living
Sudan.
around all the bodies
Yeah.
and stuff. It could be.
Well, and not even that, but when you're living in more poverty-stricken areas like that, it is far more common to butcher your own animals.
That's true.
And have chickens and goats and cows and pigs and stuff. Just
and she definitely would have. So maybe she did have some sort of I don't want to say this it's so gross to say culinary knowledge.
No, but
a little bit of
butchering
culinary
skill.
knowledge. Right.
Yeah.
So she definitely could, but the medical examiner was pretty convinced that like this was somebody who had done this many, many times before.
Wow.
Like, and he said no hesitation either, which is a huge thing.
Weird.
When they asked her, hey, where is the missing 130 pounds of his body? She said he should still all be there. So
Oh,
that's what she said.
God.
So some of you are probably wondering, hey, I thought this was the cannibalism episode. This is really gross, but there's no cannibalism. So the cannibalism part is a little bit iffy because she has since claimed that she made this up. But in the interview, she told the court psychologist, who probably had a horrible day, that she cooked and ate his ribs with special made barbecue sauce. This is a direct quote. She said, I did his ribs just like in a restaurant. It's so sweet. It's so delicious. I like mine tender. She bragged there was nothing sweeter than human meat.
Ugh.
Yeah, she now claims
Nasty.
that none of that is true. But like I would too, because that's a gross thing to say, girl.
Yeah.
And apparently she had put on, this is just adding to the sensationalism of the case, she had put on a special outfit to prepare, cook, and eat the human meat. A red dress, red shoes, red hat. Yup.
Weird.
She had a cannibalism outfit. You gotta have an outfit for every occasion. You know what I mean?
No, not for that.
You know what I mean?
Not for that.
The psychiatrist said he had never in 20 years interviewed another subject who was so bizarre and so psychotic.
Yeah, that's pretty strange.
Pretty strange.
Pretty strange.
So at the time of the murder, they had known each other for a total of 5 weeks. They had only been married for 3.
Wow.
And like, that's rage, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
She claimed that this was her self-defense. And of course, again, this is a 90s trial. This was hugely sensationalized. It was this gruesome, disgusting trial. She's this beautiful young girl. You know, this, you can see how this would capture media attention.
Right.
She claimed that Bill was a BDSM freak who would tie her up and beat her. He would pimp her out to his powerful friends in exchange for money and cars. I think it's kind of interesting that that's what she brings up, because something when she like came to America first and was kind of down on her luck is some of the men who she would, you know, do whatever with, one of them gave her a car. So I'm like, that's interesting that she's kind of twisting the story that way.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, BDSM is definitely, even now, is still like way more sensational than just like
completely
like a
and again,
guy.
There's no evidence that he was into that at all.
Right.
She just I almost wonder if that was kind of like one of her like little lawyers being like, say BDSM, that's like a hot thing right now. Everyone will pay attention.
Or you know what? You know? Two things could be true. Like he could have been into that, but also not like been abusing her. Yeah.
But it's
we're not here
fine
to,
to be normal.
We don't want to yuck your yum.
This is not the kink shaming podcast. That's after
but like he could, I mean, it's totally possible that she starts with just like a little kernel.
Right.
And
I mean, she did tie him up and before she killed him, and they said that it looked consensual. Like he hadn't, because he was a lot bigger than she was, you know?
Right.
So she had to have gotten him onto the bed and tied him up in like a calm environment.
Yeah.
How are you going to tie up this big old guy? You know what I mean?
Right.
So she claimed that he was pimping her out. He was abusing her.
Yikes.
He was raping her. And then that morning she said that he had raped her and threatened to kill her. And that's why she had snapped. The trial was an absolute circus. As you can imagine, details were sensationalized, and the courtroom was almost decorated with pictures of Bill's butchered body parts, which were left up even in sections that it was not relevant to the case.
Sure.
I'm like, please. And of course, making things worse, what movie came out during the trial? So this crime happened in 1992.
I would guess Hannibal.
You are correct.
Yeah, that would be my one and only guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
It literally came out during the trial. So many times in media, there's tons of interview clips where they're calling her the female Hannibal Lecter.
Silence of the Lambs, right?
Yep. Yeah. Sorry, Silence of the Lambs, not Hannibal.
Not Hannibal.
Silence
That's
of the Lambs.
sequel.
That's what came out.
Silence of the Lambs. I was so mad when my mom. I know I've probably said this like 3 or 4 times on the podcast. When I was like 12 years old, I wanted to watch Silence of the Lambs was on TV. I wanted to watch it, and it was right before. There's a scene where like there's somebody strapped to a board on like a balcony, and it like stops and tips over, and all his guts fall out. I think maybe I'm conflating this.
That's
with two
a different
things.
movie.
Is that a different movie?
Yeah.
There's definitely a scene where he's like strapped to a board on a balcony, I think. Anyway, whatever. This maybe I'm conflating two things. It was on TV and I really wanted to watch it. And she was like,
No. She so would.
maybe not. I was so mad.
Mom, so
Yeah.
not cool.
Yeah.
Has she let you watch it since?
I'm in my 30s. I don't give a shit. Like, I can do whatever the hell I want. Woman does not run my life anymore. I love you, Mom.
You hear
but like,
that? Hear that, Mom?
Yeah.
So, huge, sensational, crazy trial. And on January 4th, 1993, after 6 days of deliberation, Omaima Nelson was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 28 years to life in prison, which she is still serving.
Wow.
She has since completely denied eating any part of Bill. This is a direct quote from her. She said, "If I didn't defend my life, I would have been dead. I'm sorry it happened, but I'm glad I lived." She later added, "I'm sorry I dismembered him."
Okay. Well,
2006 comes along. She is able to parole. She's denied. They say that she's too unpredictable.
yeah.
And that she didn't really show remorse.
Yeah. Which is a big thing for
Which
parole
is a
boards.
huge thing. So this is a fun little tidbit. She hasn't been a little quiet mouse in prison. In fact, she's been doing what she did best. And she was answering some fan mail, came across a letter from
God.
a man in his 70s, a
Yeah.
wealthy old man who she soon married. And actually, in prison today, she has quite a bit of money because he did what 70-year-olds did best and kicked the bucket.
Oh my God.
She said, since they were married, they were able to have conjugal visits. And she made a quip in an interview where she was like, in the trailer, there were knives in the kitchen and I never hurt this man. So you should release me.
Okay. Well,
Miss Girl.
that's not.
She's like, come on, let me
that's
out.
not really how it works.
Let me out,
but
girl.
okay, whatever. Oh my God.
She says now because she had another appeal, I think it was in 2011, where she said, "I have a strong desire to help others even though I looked for love in all the wrong places."
Okay.
Ma'am.
I don't feel guilty for you.
She also vehemently denied eating her husband. "I swear to God, I did not eat any part of him," she said. "I am not a monster." This is a direct quote from this article. But when the parole commissioner asked her what was her purpose in cooking him, Nelson refused to answer.
Okay.
She is not eligible for parole again until 2026. The latest that I've heard from her is that she now claims to have absolutely no memory of the event, and she just has no idea what happened.
Oh my gosh.
So that is the very
Wild.
sad but super wild case.
I have not heard that one. I don't remember
It's
that
a
at all.
the coverage around it is really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yep, that's the story. Girl dinner.
So I am going to do something that we do not normally do.
Ooh.
Not at all.
Ooh, that could be lots of things.
Yeah. So
Are we glorifying Republicans?
no.
Are we glorifying the police?
No.
Oh my God, what could it be?
We're not a political podcast, first of all.
Fired.
But so the story that we're talking about today, that I'm going to talk about today, comes from Australia. It's actually one
Ooh.
that we covered kind of on episode 4
Okay.
of this podcast. So way back when we were just a little baby podcast, we were still like trying to figure out the format
Right.
and kind of what we wanted to do. We had these episodes where we were doing like lists. So we would cover like 3 or 4 cases.
Oh, okay.
But do them shorter, more
Right.
conjuncted, you know. This is one of those cases. So it happened to be a little, Janelle actually talked about it on episode 4.
I'm hearing Australia. I'm hearing cannibalism. I wonder if I know which one this is.
So we're going to be talking about Catherine Knight, girl.
yes.
You crack me up. You're so funny.
I knew it.
So,
This one's gross.
yeah. Well, pretend to be surprised.
It's so good. No, I love it. I'm so excited. I can't wait to hear you talk about it.
So we're going to go to Australia. It starts with husband and wife, Barbara and...
That's why you were Australian earlier. Because yours
forgot
is
I even did that.
Australian.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my
I know, I forgot it. I'll
Okay.
be honest. We started this show a while ago. I totally forgot about that.
We've been here a while. Let me out. They won't let me leave.
No, you wanted to be here so bad. Well, now you get to stay here forever. So this starts actually with husband and wife, Barbara and Jack Rowan. They were living in Aberdeen, New South Wales, and had 4 sons. But Barbara started having an affair with Jack's friend and coworker, Ken Knight. And once the affair was discovered, word kind of got around town. And they were like forced out of town.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, they were
Aberdeen
like-
was like not up in here.
Yeah, no.
Take that
They were
shit
like, Ken and
somewhere
Barbara,
else."
get the hell out.
You're out. Wait, they're literally Ken and Barbara. They're
Yeah.
Ken and Barbie.
Yeah.
Obsessed.
So they were forced to leave, and they settle in a town called Moree. Start this new life together, have 4 children of their own.
Oh, God.
And they had twin daughters.
Oh, boy.
One of which was a girl named Catherine Knight. Now, Knight, it's kind of wild how similar our stories are because Knight's childhood was also like incredibly dysfunctional and unstable, as you can probably tell by what was happening before she even came into the world.
Right.
Well, that trend continues because Ken, Knight's father, was a raging alcoholic.
Oh, boy.
And without going into too much detail, he was basically raping Knight's mother on a regular basis. Of course, this led to a strong negative opinion on men and sex, which was like definitely expressed to her daughters.
Right.
And so this is totally something that Catherine Knight picked up and was like,
It's like the perfect storm.
ingrained in her in her childhood. And Knight also later says that she was assaulted by multiple members of the family basically until she was 11 years old.
I wouldn't be surprised.
It does say she never has claimed to be assaulted by her father. And psychologists that have talked to her since largely accept this as a fact. This came from Catherine. So like,
right.
you know, you kind of have to take a grain of salt, right? But this is largely.
But it is
accepted as
interesting
fact.
that they're verifying what she's saying.
Yeah. So Knight attended Muswellbrook High School, where she was considered a bully by her classmates. There's reports that she got into altercations with a few students, at least one involving a knife.
Oh,
or
geez.
a weapon of some sort.
Oh, my God. Relax.
Yeah, she was not one to be fucked with.
No.
At all. But academically, she was considered a model student. And
You don't really see that combination often.
I know. And she actually I saw somewhere that they mentioned her getting like good behavior awards like in class.
Hello.
So like
She had her priorities.
yeah, I guess.
She's like, nobody breathe around me, but I do want to learn.
You would think so, but she left school at the age of 15.
You're getting mixed messages here, Catherine.
Yeah, reportedly without being able to learn, like she didn't learn to read or write.
Right.
And at 16, she got a job working in an abattoir.
A what?
Do you know what an abattoir is?
No. It sounds
It's
very
essentially
fancy.
like a slaughterhouse or like a butcher shop.
Oh. Yeah, I'd call
They
it something
an-
fancy,
They
too.
call it an abattoir.
Abattoir.
Yeah. And when she started there, she was in her job was basically cutting up organ meats.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
What a cute job. Like, cute little summer teen job.
But then she was, this is like the job.
Ew.
Yeah. She was later promoted to night. This was her dream. This was like her dream job. Was like working in a butcher shop.
I would pass away.
Yeah.
I could not do that job.
Yeah.
Do you think you'd be okay with it?
No. I'm a meat eater. I'm not like a vegetarian or vegan or anything.
Right.
I got no issues with most of that.
Yeah.
But it's like seeing the whole animal and having to,
It would kind of ruin burgers.
the
for
organ,
me.
truthfully, the organ meats thing I could probably do okay because that's not like the whole animal.
Oh,
it's
that's
like
fair.
parts.
That's interesting.
So you're not like faced with like
I getcha.
full animal,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh.
Yeah, I don't
piggies.
know. I don't know.
Or cows or whatever.
But this was Knight's dream job.
Oh my God. She's like living her best life.
And it was thanks to this job that she met David Stanford Kellett in 1973.
Huh?
So Kellett became friends it was one of Knight's brothers.
Okay.
And they kind of like met through the brother, but they also worked he worked at another nearby abattoir. So they were kind of like work buddies.
Yeah, they had that in common.
Yeah.
And like, what's up with cutting up organs all day? Samesies.
Yeah. And they eventually met. They hit it off.
Ew.
Kellett was a severe alcoholic.
Oh, love it already.
And he would often get into fights.
Great.
Many times with Knight backing him up.
Oh my God.
She was like ready to throw fists for him.
You know what? I'm loving this for her so far. She's got her dream job.
She's wild. She is like,
I know.
oh my God.
She's
she
awful.
gets, it just
I know this
escalates.
case.
It
Yeah.
just escalates.
Really, really bad.
So they decide to get married.
Okay,
Wasn't
great.
a huge surprise. They'd been together for like a year.
Okay.
They decide to get married. And there's this book called Bloodstain by Peter Laller that's about Catherine Knight and about the case. And he includes some advice that Knight's mother gave to Kellett when they arrived at their wedding. Now, this is from Kellett's perspective. He said, quote, "The old girl said to me to watch out. You better watch this one or she'll fucking kill you. Stir her up the wrong way or do the wrong thing and you're fucked. Don't ever think of playing up on her. She'll fucking kill you."
Oh my God. Normal mother-in-law advice.
Yeah.
You know, it's
don't
fine.
fuck around or she will kill you.
You know, I hope that my mom said that to my husband. Something like that.
Oh my gosh.
He probably
I
already
can't
knew.
imagine.
There's no way.
No. Yeah, that was her mother talking.
That's
so
not
like
good. And he was like, great.
Yeah.
Love it.
Oh, there's more. I'm sorry. There's more to the quote. And that was her mother talking. She told me she's got something loose. She's got a screw loose somewhere. That's the end of it. Yeah.
Good.
So that was her mom.
Wow.
Of course, her mom was proven right when on their wedding night, Knight attempted to strangle her new husband after only having sex 3 times. This is not enough.
So she was like insatiable.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, it was their wedding night.
I know, but let him lay down. He's had a lot of wine.
No,
He
we gotta
danced
go.
a lot.
We gotta
He's
go.
tired.
So, I mean, that pretty much like set the tone for the marriage. Knight continued to be incredibly violent towards Kellett. There was one night in particular that was really violent when a pregnant Knight attacked Kellett with a frying pan. Kellett managed to escape to a neighbor's house where he collapsed with a fractured skull.
Oh my God.
Police were called and they wanted to charge Knight with assault, but she managed to like convince Kellett,
I'm just a little old pregnant lady.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. It's just the hormones. I don't even know. But he dropped the charges. He's like, no, I won't charge her.
man.
He had a fractured fucking skull. Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh my God.
So that happened.
Hormones.
Their daughter was born in May 1976. But shortly after, Kellett left their marriage for another woman and moved away to Queensland. Now, the following day, Knight was admitted to St. Elmo's Hospital, where she was diagnosed with postnatal depression.
Okay.
Literally the day after he leaves.
That's understandable, I feel.
She's there for several weeks.
Okay.
And then she is released, seemingly recovered. However, she immediately she got her 2-month-old daughter, placed her on some railroad tracks just before a train was due to come through.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Luckily, there was an unhoused man nearby. He saw the child on the tracks and retrieved her just before the train came by. Now, meanwhile, Knight had gone and gotten an axe and was like threatening people in town.
Girl, calm down, girl. Oh my God.
This is the day after her release, like within hours.
They're like, she's good to go. And
Yeah.
you're like, yeah.
Yeah, so she was taken
Grab
into
my
custody.
hatchet. Yeah, okay, good. That
They
probably violated her parole a little bit.
Well, she wasn't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She wasn't
was
arrested.
Like, oh,
no,
yeah,
St. Elmo's
that's
Hospital.
right.
She was like rehab. It was for
I
the
got confused.
postnatal depression.
My bad.
She was this time. She wasn't arrested. She was detained.
Okay.
She was taken back to St. Elmo's, and the following day signs herself out.
Oh, she's like, I'm good, guys.
Yeah.
It's okay.
So this is just like the first in a number of really strange incidents involving Knight. Just a few days after the second release from St. Elmo's, she takes a woman hostage with a knife, slashes her face, demands that she drive her to this service station. When they get to the service station, the woman manages to escape.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so the woman escapes. Knight takes another young boy hostage.
Right.
Police arrive. They disarm Knight and they take her into custody before taking her to Morisset Psychiatric Hospital.
Okay.
So they take her to a psychiatric hospital.
Good plan.
There, Knight tells the nurses that she wanted to kill the mechanic at the service station because he had fixed Kellett's car, which then allowed him to leave and move to Queensland.
Oh, we're
with
blaming the mechanic?
Yeah, it's the mechanic's fault.
What?
100%. You
Girl,
fixed
he
his car.
wanted to leave. He could have walked. It's not the car.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So then she said she was going to kill the mechanic.
Okay.
Once she had done that, she was going to drive to Queensland and then kill Kellett and his mother. So her mother-in-law.
Oh,
they're still married. He just ran off with another woman.
Yep.
So, of course, they tell this to police. Police go to Kellett and they're just like, just so you know,
Be careful.
this woman is planning an attempt on your life. Like she's threatening to murder you.
Was he like, oh my God, she's thinking about me?
I mean, maybe, because once he finds out about this threat in his life, finds out she's at the psychiatric hospital, leaves his girlfriend in Queensland, moves back to Aberdeen with his mother to try and help Knight. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So in August 1976, Knight is released from the psychiatric hospital into the care of Kellett and his mom.
The people she was planning to kill. Okay.
Right.
Okay,
but they're
cool.
like, we're going to take care of you. And they sort of moved around quite a bit, but she got a job. They moved around a couple of times. She injures her back, goes on disability. She's like waiting on this workers' compensation claim. Right. And amidst all of this, Kellett and Knight have a second daughter.
Oh, great.
They're like back together and whatever. Now, it's a little unclear to me if they how long they remain together, if they ever officially got divorced.
Well, it seems like it's all over the place,
Yeah, it's hard to tell. They were officially married, but obviously he leaves. They don't get divorced.
Yeah,
he comes back. She leaves. She will eventually end up married. Well, I don't think she ever gets married again, but she goes and lives with other men. I don't know that they ever got divorced or not. It was unclear. Yeah. Couldn't find out.
Yeah.
But at some point,
why would they have another baby?
Knight moves out with their daughters, takes their daughters with him. But
wait, okay, she got the first daughter who she put on the train tracks back?
Yeah, I mean, this is the 80s.
Jesus fucking Christ.
The 80s in Australia.
I was thinking of like a really cute story where like the unhoused man like raises her and it's like really cute.
Raises her on the streets?
Okay, well, this lady is awful. I think it would have been better the other way around. Okay.
I mean, maybe.
I'm thinking of like a really idealized like Pixar movie.
Yeah, I could see that.
Like it's really cute.
It's not that cute.
Yeah, not
it's
cute.
Not that cute.
Okay.
So no. They all live together in one happy family.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
But then she leaves. She takes her daughters with her out of the house. By 1986, she meets a man named David Saunders, who like moves in with her and her daughters. But it didn't take long for Knight to show her jealous side because she was like constantly questioning Saunders about what he was doing and who he was with when she wasn't around or when they weren't together.
Very controlling.
Very. So Saunders decides to leave and he had moved in with Knight, but he kept his apartment. He didn't get rid of it. So he moves back into the apartment.
Okay.
That he had kept. Knight sort of like follows him and is like, please don't leave. I want you to stay. Please stay with me. But what Saunders may not have expected is the violence that would await him when he decided to stay. Yeah. So in May 1987, Knight took Saunders' 2-month-old dingo pup, slit the animal's throat in front of him, and then knocked Saunders out with a frying pan. I don't know what it is with this woman in frying pans.
Yeah, seriously.
She says she did this as an example of like, if he ever cheated on me, this is what's going to happen to you.
To you.
Yeah.
Right.
And then knocked him the fuck out.
Oh.
I know. It's really sad. So the following year, Knight
Fuck this lady.
becomes pregnant again.
God damn it. Stop having children.
And at that point, so her and Saunders are still together. She becomes pregnant with his child. At that point, he's like, all right, well, I'm going to buy a house for all of us.
Cool.
To live in.
Good plan.
So he buys a house. They move in. It wasn't long before another incident happens where after an argument, Knight hits Saunders in the face with an iron and stabs him with a pair of scissors. And this altercation is kind of the last straw for Saunders. He basically goes into hiding.
Gotta draw the line somewhere, man.
And he was in like the military. So he takes this like military leave and fucking drops off the map. Nobody was telling.
So he probably had some kind of like training to be able to be like,
I mean, maybe. It is the 80s. So I think it's a little easier to disappear. But like, people were not telling Knight where he was. He was just like, I'm getting the fuck out of here.
Okay.
Leaves for a couple months. He comes back to find out that in the time period that he was gone, Knight had gone to the police and had been like, Saunders is abusing me. He just abuses me. And he gets, for what it sounds like to me, it's like the U.S. equivalent of like an order of protection.
Okay.
While he's gone. She's like, I don't know where he is. I don't know when he's coming back.
But I don't want him near me.
But I don't want him near me.
Because he's dangerous.
Because he's abusive.
Right.
Yeah. And gets this order of protection.
Yep.
So that was pretty much the end of their relationship.
Probably for
She keeps all the kids.
a good thing. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So then, Then Knight begins a relationship with another coworker named John Chillingsworth, which is quite the name.
Yeah, that's like Jack Skellington.
They have a baby.
Stop it.
A baby boy born in 1992. In total, their relationship was a 3-year relationship, but ultimately Knight left him for a man named John Charles Thomas Price.
Lots of names.
Lots of first names. It's all first names.
Yeah.
So Price has 3 kids from a previous relationship.
Oh my God. It's like cheaper by the dozen, but like fucking awful.
Right. But this guy Price was described by just about everybody as like this. He's a really good guy. He's super well liked. Like he was just a normal guy. He's just a dude.
Okay. The story needs a good person.
Yeah. Somebody. Somebody has to be like not totally fucking dysfunctional.
Yeah.
Price was also aware of Knight's violent streak, but his kids really liked her. And outside of a couple altercations, like life was pretty good. Like they were getting along pretty well. I mean, yes, they had every couple has their issues, right?
Right.
Do they always get as extreme as these? No. But I mean, I wouldn't know really.
Well, no.
I would say, are you like stabbing Rob like once a month? With
once
scissors.
a month's crazy. That's an annual tradition at best. You gotta keep him on his toes.
Once a year at Christmas.
yeah, it's a holiday affair.
So he knew about this and was like, well, the kids like him. Our relationship's pretty good.
Yeah. Fine. Why rock the boat?
Yeah. But it all kind of comes to a head when Price and Knight get into a fight about getting married. She was like really insistent on wanting to get married. And he was like, no, like I love you, but like, I don't see the rush in like us.
He was like,
married.
nar.
Yeah. Nar. Pretty much. Yeah.
Narbide.
So to get back at him.
Oh God.
Knight took a video of a bunch of equipment that he had allegedly stolen from work, takes this video, sends it to his boss, who promptly fires Price. He had worked for the company for 17 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well,
and if I remember correctly, they were like out of date first aid kits that were like in the dumpster behind. He worked for some mines. He was like a miner.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't like he was stealing equipment. He was just like kind of taking the stuff that was already going to be thrown away.
Yes. But she records it, sends it to the boss, represents it as this stolen stuff. And after 17 years of working for them, they fire him right away.
Wow, what a shithead.
So Price was understandably upset. And he kicks Knight out of the house.
Good.
But just a few months later, Price and Knight rekindle the relationship. But he refuses to let her move back in.
Okay.
And so they are like still constantly fighting.
Okay.
And after a number of fights and assaults, this happened frequently. Knight ends up stabbing Price in the chest in February 2000.
Jeez.
Stabs him in the chest. Shortly after this whole thing, Price ends the relationship.
Okay, good.
He gets a restraining order in hopes of like protecting himself and protecting his kids.
Good.
He gets the restraining order. The next day, anybody who was listening, he's like, if something happens to me, it's because Knight killed me.
That's honestly probably the only good idea he's ever had.
He
in his
tells
whole
his
life.
neighbors,
Yeah.
he tells the people at work, like, if I don't come into work, it's because something happened to me and it's Knight's fault.
Okay.
Telling everybody.
Smart.
When Price arrived home that night, he found that although when he got home, she wasn't at the house, Knight wasn't there, but she had sent the kids to a sleepover at somebody else's house, sent them away. He goes home, goes to hang at a neighbor's house until about 11 o'clock, comes home, goes to bed. Later, Knight comes over. She wakes him up.
It's like, hey.
They have sex.
Oh my God.
Go to bed.
Why?
Things become a little bit more serious the next morning when the neighbors notice that Price's car is still in the driveway.
Dun, dun, dun.
The people, his coworkers, notice that he has not come to work.
Oh.
So they decide to go over to the house. They're knocking on the doors, they're knocking on the windows, thinking maybe he's just like sleeping in. They're not getting a response.
Right.
But then they notice that there is blood on the front door, and so they call police.
Okay, I was gonna say, like, I don't think that I would ever, like, maybe for a close friend, but I'm like, if I'm supposed to see you and I'm not seeing you, I'm gonna call police. I'm not going there.
This was also like not late in the day. It was 6 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
When all of this is happening. But like I said, he works as a minor.
Right.
So like the hours are a little different. He would
Yeah.
have been up and out of the house.
Completely. Yeah, I totally get it's unusual, but
You
it's
know?
like, I don't know if I would have gone there myself. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
I'm sure they had no idea, but like, ugh.
Right.
I always hear horrible stories about people like stumbling into these gruesome scenes.
I know.
And I always feel so bad.
I know. So according to police, when they arrived, they managed to break into the door where they find a dead Price next to Knight, who is like seemingly passed out from taking an excessive number of pills. Evidence from the scene showed that Knight had stabbed Price with a butcher knife while he slept. When he woke up, Price tried to turn on the light and escape the house, even managing to open the front door and make it outside. But he was either it's unclear whether he stumbled back in, like in a stupor, like not knowing what's going on, or if he was physically dragged back into the house. But he was pulled back in the house where he bled from his injuries in the hallway.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. In total, Price had been stabbed at least 37 times. Jeez. Some of the stab wounds extended into the vital organs. So pretty violent.
Overkill, yes.
Very violent. Now, following the attack, Knight leaves Price's body at the house, goes to the ATM, withdraws $1,000 from his bank account.
Okay.
Comes back from the ATM. She then uses her abattoir skills to skin Price.
Ew.
She hangs his skin from a meat hook. I don't know a better way to say it. Like,
there's not.
Skin suit from a meat hook.
Yeah.
She then decapitates Price and carves up portions of his body to prepare a meal with potatoes, carrots, pumpkin, beetroot, zucchini, cabbage, yellow squash, and gravy.
At least she's getting her vegetables.
Ugh.
Very nutritious.
By the time the police arrive, the table has been set.
Stop it.
There are meals served on plates beside place cards.
Oh, she made place cards?
Bear the names of Price's children.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So she
Ew.
fully intended to make dinner and serve this meal
To his children? Catherine.
Yeah. It's pretty
That's
bad.
disgusting.
You know, they did find a third portion of the meal that had been thrown outside. It was like chucked out on the back lawn. And the speculation is that Catherine attempted to eat the meal herself, but she couldn't. And like threw it
it
out.
away.
outside. Yeah.
You have to season while you cook. You can't just season at the end.
yeah.
You just have to season the whole time.
They did discover Price's head. It was in a stock pot with veggies that was still warm when they arrived.
Ew.
Price's body, the rest of his body, because she had, oh my gosh. Okay, not to get too graphic.
No, for real.
She had carved portions of his buttocks to like cook. So the rest of his body was posed it was like around, there was like a 2 liter of Coke between, like he had just been like drinking a 2 liter of Coke, right? Just like
She like
around.
posed him like a mannequin?
Yeah.
This bitch is crazy.
Poses his body, leaves a note on the body. Knight wrote this note, and it contains these allegations that he and his son, I believe, had raped or sexually assaulted her daughters.
Oh.
And these allegations were not substantiated.
Right.
There's no evidence that this was going on. But she leaves this note that was like, this is what you get for raping my daughters and also your kid and blah, blah, blah. Just these wild allegations.
Right.
Yeah. Knight claims to have no memory of
Shocker.
the entire murder.
Yup.
In later interviews and like depositions and stuff, she is like, I don't remember anything leading up to this happening. I remember going over there to like watch TV, but like I don't remember anything
She's
happening.
like, it just wasn't really a memorable day for me.
Yeah, and she doesn't remember anything in the immediate aftermath, but somehow is able to give police a detailed description of the sex that they had.
Oh, okay.
That night.
She's got to have priorities. She's got a very selective memory. Oh my God.
I mean, was that the big event that evening, I guess?
Really.
I don't know.
She's like, it was really good. He was pulling out tricks.
horrible.
Ew.
So following her arrest, Knight attempted to make a plea deal. She was like, I'm going to make a deal. I'll plead guilty to manslaughter.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Yeah. The courts were like, no fucking way.
No, thank you.
Immediately reject this plea. And they charge her with murder in March 2001, to which she pleads not guilty.
Of course.
When the case finally goes to trial in October 2002, the courts actually seat a jury. They go through voir dire. They get a jury impaneled. And Knight decides to change her plea to guilty.
She's just a dick.
So the jury's dismissed.
Oh my
They're just
God.
like, she just changed her plea.
I
Like,
swear she did that on purpose.
it kind of feels like that, right?
She does kind of feel like she's living life for the plot.
Wild.
Yeah.
The judge orders a psychiatric assessment at this point to determine if she's fit to make that plea. If she's fit to make a guilty plea.
Right.
Very common thing. It was concluded at that point that Knight had a borderline personality disorder. It's unclear why she decided to change her plea. Like there's, I don't.
It's unclear why this bitch does anything.
And it was very sudden. Especially considering that still she refuses to take any responsibility for anything.
Right.
But to be honest, it doesn't really fucking matter.
No, it
because
doesn't.
What's clear is she was guilty.
Yeah.
She very clearly did the damn thing.
Ew.
Yeah. On November 8th, 2001, Knight was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole.
Phew.
The judge went as far as to have all of her paperwork marked definitely never to be released, which was the first time this has happened for any woman in Australian history.
That means like she will never be released.
Yes.
Okay.
Like the case is so extreme that they will never be fit to be released.
Wow.
It is a thing they can do there.
So this is like a specialty ruling.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow,
Even though there was
interesting.
not like a period of parole discussed. And like you can have it be life in prison without parole and still put on the indication of never to be released.
Right.
Okay.
Because
That's the thing.
things happen.
That's a thing, right? So Knight decides to appeal her sentence in
God, girl.
June 2006.
Give it up, girl.
Saying that the sentence was far too severe for the crime she had committed, which I find interesting.
What would be worse? You cut his skin off.
You literally tried to eat him.
Yeah.
You tried to eat him.
And serve him to his kids, who are probably so happy to be at a sleepover away from you fucking people.
Not to mention all of the shit that she did without ever getting charged.
Right.
Like how many times she like
Crazy.
stabbed her partners
That's
and
what
beat
I'm
them with frying
amazed is
pans
that
and
she's
shit.
been allowed to be out this long, just doing
She never
her
got any
things.
charges.
That sucks.
Yeah. So she did appeal it. But the Criminal Court of Appeals denied the appeal, citing her lack of remorse and saying, quote, this was an appalling crime, almost beyond contemplation in a civilized society, end quote.
Agree.
Interestingly enough, and you know I love the little legal quirks, they did say that the trial judge erred in saying Knight should never be released. Although it seems like it was more of a note because I don't think that the sentencing changed, but they're kind of like, he was not in a position at that level at that time to make that determination.
Okay.
Yeah. But it doesn't appear to me that anything.
Right. And I mean, she's still in prison for life.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are, so her prison life is like thriving.
What?
She is like, yeah. That's like her element. She did an interview after prison where she's like, yeah, this is bee's knees. Like, she's doing great in prison.
What?
So-
She loves it.
Yeah, like she's doing fine. Made a lot of friends just hanging out. That's where she belongs.
She's like, I really just needed
Yeah.
some female interaction.
Yeah. So that is the story of Catherine Knight.
That was gross.
It's pretty nasty.
Loved
It gets
it.
very intense.
Yes.
Yeah. Before you decide that you want to try to eat somebody, first of all, don't.
Yeah, please don't.
Second of all, check out this podcast.
Hi, I'm Lainey, host of the new podcast, We're All Just Pretending. It's a podcast that has elements of Dear Abby with a twist of Post Secret. Every episode, I'll read listener questions and provide advice and insight as a friend. My own pod friends will even join in and offer their advice on parenting, relationships, and even give you really bad advice on purpose. Since we all have secrets to share, there'll also be a segment focusing on letting the skeletons out of your closet. If you're looking for advice or want to share a secret, head to allpretendingpod.com. And remember, we're all just pretending here.
All right, boys and girls, and those in between.
Hi.
That has been our show.
Yes, it has.
That has been it.
It sure has.
There's a lot. There's just a lot for an episode. It's heavy. It's
Does
pretty
everybody
icky.
have a bad
Pretty heavy.
taste in their mouth?
Oh, God. Do you have anything to say before we close out the show, Miss Rachel?
Don't eat people. That's gross.
I mean, that's a solid
Super
take.
gross.
Yeah.
That was a good one. I love that case.
Yeah.
As soon as you said Australia and cannibalism, I was like, it's going to be the one where she hung his skin up.
Yeah, gross.
Ew.
On that note, our sound and editing is by Tiff Fullman. Our music is by Jason Zakshevsky, the Enigma. This has been the Bad Taste Crime Podcast. We will see you in 2 weeks. Goodbye.
10 young women and left their bodies on the hillsides along the highway.
It was as if a wave of evil washed over this town.
We are all people in some form